Good evening. It's 6:30. I'd like to welcome you to the special City Council meeting for September 29th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Blendy.
Here.
Ernst.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Martin. McIntyre.
Here.
Moss.
Here.
Sluter. And Smith.
Here.
Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Next item on the agenda, approval of remote attendance. Do I have a motion to approve Bobby Martin joining remotely due to medical reasons?
Motion to approve. Oh, go ahead. Mr. Moss.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Moss, second by Ernst. We'll have a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Welcome, Bobby.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, audience comments. Are there any persons wishing to speak during audience comment? When you go to the microphone, to the podium, the microphone, you press a button and then you'll see a green area light up on the microphone. And if you wish a response from the staff, there's a binder behind you that you would put your name and contact information.
Yeah, my name is Bruce Wilson. I've lived in Washington for 45 years now. And what's precipitated my visit here was I walk my dog every morning early, and I've had to quit going on the bike trails with him in the park. The kids in the morning are heading to school, and they're on scooters, and there'll be a half a dozen of them excuse me, that come flying by more than 15 miles an hour. And they don't care. I've had one person say, on your right, to let me know that they're coming. You can't hear those scooters and they're flying. So anyway, I stopped at the police department because I see all these signs at the bike trails, no motorized vehicles. And I'm assuming this has a motor. Does that, I know I've been to national parks where you are not allowed to ride e-bikes on bike trails. Anyway, enough of that. But I went and checked the state law. And for the low speed, which are 15 miles an hour or under, it's 16 years old. Now, these kids are going to the grade school, so none of them are even in junior high yet. Helmets are required for under 18 to ride one of these things. Now, if people want to ride on sidewalks, that's prohibited unless the municipality authorizes sidewalk riding. So, and I live up by the square, so I'm on the square a lot, and these kids will roll down the square or the sidewalks at 15 plus miles an hour. And I know how people are shopping. There'll be 4 or 5 of them come out of the store. They're not paying attention. They don't hear it. So anyway, that's where I'm at with that. I'm just thinking that there needs to be some sort of regulation, municipal, where can they ride? You know, what's the requirements? So that's where I'm at with it.
Thank you.
And I've got this if you guys want this.
You can pass it around, pass it to the first person, and then we'll give it to the city clerk.
Thanks. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other persons wishing to speak? All right, next on the agenda, mayoral communications, requested actions. Letter A, possible creation of deputy city administrator position discussion, and I will turn that over to our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Stevens asked me to discuss the idea of possibly creating a deputy city administrator position. I think this is a good idea. It wasn't my idea. I like to be honest and own things when I come up with them and give credit to others when it's not me. But the concept, as I discussed it with the mayor, and this is partly my input and I think input from some others as well, is to have a permanent department head who serves as, we use the word deputy, really, I think a more accurate way to describe it would be backup city administrator, who's involved in that city administration type role with the actual city administrator, so that in the event of vacations, lengthy absence due to health reasons or vacancy, you have someone who's ready to step in. And ideally, that position, as at least as I've conceived it in my mind, is it would create a sort of continuity and succession planning, so that you're not in a situation where you have no one who's really ready or has the capacity and experience to step into the city administrator role. So it seemed like an appropriate thing to talk about tonight, since we're on topic for that. I don't want us to get too bogged down in that. I think the mayor, wanted to at least pose this, and it would be something we would have to create by ordinance. So we didn't want to just do it and spring it on you. We wanted to give everybody an opportunity to bat it around, again, briefly. But that's the concept. Did I miss anything, Mayor? I think we're trying to keep it short tonight, so we don't step on the real reason why we're here, which is Mr. Arndt and his discussion.
The continuity factor.
That's really the concept is, Washington's a big enough city to, look for continuity in those types of positions, whether it's police chief, administrator, the positions where it's important to have someone with, the knowledge of what's going on, where we've been, where we're headed, that can readily step in and fill in an absence, whether it's a short-term absence or, theoretically get appointed as the replacement administrator if circumstances warrant.
Madam Mayor, if you don't mind, if I can add to that, the support a deputy city administrator would bring to the city administrator is invaluable. I can speak from experience as being a city manager and a city administrator in two different venues where I had a deputy city manager and a deputy city administrator. Just having that sounding board, that person to work with, that person to hold you accountable, your accountability partner, that person to groom and mentor into the role as the next city administrator. It's a win-win for both professionals. It's very important. And as a member of the ICMA and the ILCMA as well, the International City Managers Association and the Illinois City Managers Association, I can attest that multiple communities, smaller than Washington and larger than Washington, have deputy city managers, assistant city managers, sometimes assistant to the city manager, sometimes a management analyst. So it's a professional tree, if you will, that helps support the administration of the community. And I do know that the city of Charleston, where Scott just retired as the city manager, they have two deputy city managers there in the city of Charleston. So it's, and as the city attorney mentioned, a lot of your fire departments would have deputy chiefs, assistant chiefs. Your police departments have deputy chiefs, assistant chiefs. The manager's office needs, or in this case, the administrator's office needs a deputy administrator.
Before we go on to other comments, could you please introduce yourself so we know your
Sorry
role
about
here?
that. My name is Jim Arndt, the president and CEO of Arndt Municipal Support. And this is Scott Smith. He's the consultant with Arndt Municipal Support.
And I would like to add one thing. I'm not sure if our attorney noted this, but this isn't a creation of a new position. This would be, along with a department head, it will be a department head slash deputy city administrator. So it is not a new position. I see it as like as other duties to that department head's role.
Thanks for mentioning. I did forget, neglect to mention that. I think conceptually, this would be best viewed as additional job responsibilities for someone who's an existing department head. In our current situation, I think it's ideal for Dennis, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but, you know, someone who is already in City Hall and familiar with all the processes in place, you know, department head level person who takes on that sort of additional role, you know, to be ready and be both assistance to the city administrator and prepared for that. I like the word continuity, and so anyway, thank you.
Alderperson Moss?
Are you seeking council input on this tonight, or will this be on a committee of the whole discussion in the future?
In a perfect world, I would like to have it on the agenda for October 6th, because what my goal is to have everything seamless. It's like we've had a lot of turmoil with, you know, city administrators, no city administrators. Now we have, I appointed Dennis interim city administrator. I would like to see this as a first reading and possibly waiving second reading October 6th, depending upon how, you know, the council feels about this. But no decision is going to be made tonight.
So with that being in mind, that we might see this on our next council meeting next Monday, I would just say that I like, you know, what I hear in terms of the additional job responsibilities and not adding another position. Obviously, I think in a city of our size, an entire new position could you know, toe the line of being maybe a little top heavy. So, and I'd like to see that exist within the ordinance, that it is not a standalone position, so that it doesn't grow into that without a conscious decision made by future councils.
Yeah, I think, you know, conceptually, it would not be a standalone position, and we would craft the ordinance in such a way that it's, you know, a selection amongst the existing department heads to take on that additional role without having a separate person in that role as a standalone.
That's probably the most important part for me. I mean, it's obvious to see how this could have benefited us over the last, you know, decade plus if this approach had been taken earlier. So with that one piece of input, I'm, you know, good with seeing it next week.
Another thing I might add is someone said this is creating a position for Dennis. It is not. Dennis has been the interim city administrator, basically really kind of performing this role, like setting this role in motion for the future. So it's not just creating it for him. It could be, you know, any city administrator, but he just happens to be the one that I appointed interim city administrator. So it's his. Oh, and somebody said we have to post this.
It would not be the type of position that would need to be posted, no. It's, you know, a selection. It would be a, you know, officer level position, so it would be mayor, you know, recommendation with consent of the council, so it would come back, whoever that person is. But because it's selection amongst existing department heads, it wouldn't even be appropriate for posting. You're not hiring an outside person. So, and if one of the department head positions was vacant, obviously that wouldn't qualify that, you know, that department head to fill this role. So I don't think it would ever even be appropriate to post the position. It's really more a selection amongst the existing department heads.
Mayor.
Alderperson Ernst?
I like the idea. I would say my one sticking point would be careful consideration when crafting the ordinance. If this position is for continuity and succession planning, I'd want it to be pretty spelled out that the deputy does move into the city administrator role, you know, within reason when it's time. So I think that's my only sticking point, that it's very clearly spelled out within the ordinance.
Thank you. Alderperson McIntyre?
Yeah, Mayor, I guess the only question I have, like, again, I'm not against this position. I think it's something that I can see being a good fit for us. The questions I have to come to mind a little bit is, again, this is pretty quick. Our next meeting is the 6th, for something to be on there for us to vote on. I guess I have lots of questions still of, you know, what if no one wants that position that comes about from in the leadership role? How does that affect? And again, makes it sound like it comes as an appointment from the mayor with confirmation from the city council. And then if that person steps down or resigns from their position, is it given back? You know, I guess I just need to understand how the process is supposed to work and what the ultimate goal of that is. And then I guess my next point would be, in the event that we had a city manager, you know, retire, die, leave for any reason, does that person automatically step up into the role of city manager? Do they automatically set up into the interim city manager? You know, how we spell that out is what I would like to have more clarity on, to understand what that future role was, you know, exist of. And is there any financial benefit from taking that, and how do we compensate for those additional requirements or asks of that person?
So about the financial section of it, Dennis, that we approved a contract, so it's financially advantageous than just his city engineer role, so that's already in place. I think you're asking about moving into the role. I think evaluations have a play in there too. So I think I agree with what everybody has said. We do have to spell this out. You can't just say, just because you're here, you're going to go there. Evaluations do have a place in this process.
I guess I would add then, and I don't mean to belate it or anything, but like, I don't want to make the assumption that any of our employees currently would accept that position, either, you know, I'm not trying to call Dennis out in the situation, he's currently playing that role, but in the event that Dennis determined he did not want to take something like that, again, that's not my decision, that's his decision, and anyone else would want that. I guess that's where, to me, the compensation would be the question I have. How are we delineating that? Is it X amount of dollars to, in addition to your salary for that position? I think we're in a unique position because we have an interim city manager at this point who was an employee who's been brought up. I think that's kind of null and void in the discussion we're talking about now. If we're looking for long-term sustainability, if Dennis were to, and again, I'm not saying that you're doing this or putting words in your mouth, but if Dennis were to quit tomorrow and then it's out to the other department heads, how would they be compensated? I think it would be clearly stated how we're going to do that, so that future boards, it's already laid out. It doesn't have to have something in there necessarily that is, you know, because there's obviously needs to be some type of compensation for taking on those additional responsibilities. I think it's a great thing. I think it's great for a future city manager. But I also, you know, I just want to make sure we're cautious that we're not writing this out specifically. And like you said, we're not writing out specifically for Dennis, but we do need to make sure we're writing out specifically for whoever is in that role, you know, in the future.
Yeah, and my thought on that and concept on that, I'm always reluctant to put a particular dollar amount in an ordinance because otherwise you're changing it, and there's rules on when and how you can change compensation like that. But it absolutely, the ordinance would need to specify that there will be additional compensation, you know, probably to be agreed upon between the city and the party. And it would, as I've conceived it and discussed it with the mayor, because it's selecting among the existing department heads, it's entirely possible no one wants to take that on. So it is certainly possible that, you know, if you create the deputy administrator position the way I'm conceiving it, that position would be vacant. And again, it's not a standalone position, so it's not the type of position that you can go out, you know, or you would want to post and go out and hire and bring somebody in from the outside. That kind of defeats the whole point of it. So Yes, it would be certainly possible that none of the existing department heads were interested, even though it would be additional compensation. And you just can't ever predict the future. But yeah, that was a good point and one that I didn't address.
I guess I just have one further question, kind of going on with that, is, does that person would then report to the city administrator? I mean, that's. at the end of the-
Absolutely.
Okay,
The
so,
chain of command, so to speak, that with respect to the deputy administrator, you know, like if depending on which person it is, it's just the deputy administrator role that they would report directly to the city administrator. Now, most of the department heads also report to the administrator, so there may not be a distinction, but, you know, yes, the chain of command would be directly reporting to the administrator, whereas the administrator is more, I think, you know, the council and the mayor, I think is the way the ordinance is worded.
okay. So I guess for me, that's why I say I have more questions than I have answers at this current time moving forward, and the fact that, to me, we currently don't have that position. If we were to create this position in a week, I mean, with the next meeting, then to me, a little bit of concern of a cart before the horse situation. We're providing a position we didn't have, which again, I'm not in support of the idea. I'm just, again, I'm trying to understand if that person, if somebody on our staff decides that they do want the deputy city administrator position, and then we get a new city administrator in, and they don't want that person, how does that play a role?
Well, that's interesting because the mayor appoints both of those positions with the advice and consent of the council. So it's not necessarily up to the administrator, although when government is operating the way it's supposed to, everybody's going to be rowing in the same direction. And you would have consensus, but, you know, again, that's always a possibility. That's true with any department, any appointed officer position in any municipality. You can have an administrator that disagrees with the mayor, and the mayor wants to appoint one person to a position, and the administrator thinks that it should be someone else. That's always possible. And again, it's a matter of how well you work together.
City Clerk Brode, did you want your microphone on? Alderperson Blondie? Or did Alderperson Martin want to speak?
I do, if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay, thank you. So I think I see the benefit in this. And I'm for it as the city lawyer or city attorney had spelled out. So if in the case of, you know, the city administrator is unreachable, sick, vacation or whatever, or, you know, resigns or retires or whatever it is, and then the deputy becomes automatically the acting city administrator until the council can convene and decide who the interim is or vote on a permanent situation. So for any reason that the administrator is unreachable or unable to do his job, that the deputy becomes the automatic acting. I think that's a benefit for continuity for the city.
Thank you. Alderperson Blondie?
Yeah, I don't have a concern, you know, with the concept here. Maybe to me, a little bit of a name hang up. I don't know about deputy city administrator, because to me, if it's not really truly like a separate standalone position, I wonder if it's something like more like assistant to the city attorney, or not city, to the city administrator or something like that is, you know, more in line with what the job would actually be. I certainly would not be a fan of, for me, a city the size of Washington, to say we'd want a separate standalone position. I think it's okay to have it as additional job responsibility, you know, with some kind of slight increase or something like that to help compensate for that. But I certainly wouldn't want it to drive, you know, significant financial cost to the city. And maybe I misunderstood one of the suggestions. I thought there was a suggestion there that the ordinance be drafted in a way that, you know, whoever was in this role would then be automatically in line for the actual city administrator position had that come open. I don't think I would support that. I mean, to me, and I may have misunderstood that comment, but to me, it gives us an opportunity for a line of succession, but I don't think it should be written in there that it's a guaranteed that you would.
Yeah, I
into
think my intent and then the language that probably would be used, I haven't written this yet, would be presumptive. But again, it would always require the mayor making the appointment and the council approving the appointment. So the ordinance can say this is, the purpose of this is to have a person who's got the experience and would be the presumptive replacement if the administrator leaves for any reason. But it still will require formal appointment and formal consent from the council.
Okay. And then I mean, how do,
Oh,
Go ahead.
how do
Sorry, finish, Lenny.
like other cities like East Peoria or something, or Pekin, or, some of our neighboring communities, do they have this in play, or how do they handle it?
the larger communities tend to have a standalone assistant or deputy, which is distinct. As I sit here, I can't think of a nearby community that has a deputy the way we're talking about it right now. And so it's hard to just, as I sit here, come up with a town that I can tell you to look at their model. But again, the concept is continuity. The goal is not to have, again, a person to share the responsibilities because it's more than one person can handle. It's more like somebody that knows what's going on and can easily pivot and take that function over when necessary.
So in the reporting structure then too, I guess is the thought process, there'd be the city administrator, all the department heads would report that city administrator. It's not they report to the.
They would
deputy
not
city
report to
administrator,
the deputy or assistant, whatever. And I'm not hung up on the name either. It's
Yeah.
kind of, I agree, it's assistant. To me, backup is really the appropriate term, but we can't call it the backup administrator. So, descriptively, backup, I think, works. But in any event, nobody would report directly to the deputy or assistant. They would still report to the administrator. It's only after there's an absence, more than just a temporary absence, right? At least the way conceived and the way I would plan to draw it up, that there would be any, change in the reporting. The deputy would have to assume the role of administrator for the reporting to change over.
Okay, yeah, I mean, other than that, right now, I don't think I have any other questions. I'll be interested to see the ordinance, how it reads, and that may spark some other conversation, but I guess I'd be fine seeing it next week, because we still have a committee of the whole the following week if we need it or something, so seems okay.
Before I call on Alderperson Martin, I want to explain how the name deputy came up, because when Dennis and I were talking about it, and Joni, it was like, assistant, deputy, assistant, we couldn't figure it out. And then I think it was Dennis, because he is creative. We've got a deputy city clerk, we have a deputy chief, and so it's for, again, continuity of the terms that we use. That's how the word deputy came about for this. Alderperson Martin?
Thank you. So, yeah, in regards to the deputy or assistant becoming automatically the city manager, no, I wouldn't be for that. But what I would want is for the continuity of if anything happens to the city manager, whether vacation's sick or resigns, that the deputy becomes automatically the acting city administrator. So we're not waiting until the mayor can appoint and council can vote on that, that we have that continuity in the meantime, that whoever the deputy becomes the automatic acting city administrator in the meantime until the mayor can appoint somebody and the city can either the new interim or the permanent solution.
Yeah,
Otherwise, if we're not
that's,
going to do that, then it doesn't make sense.
no, that's exactly, you nailed it.
Mayor,
Alderperson Johnson?
just a quick question, because I don't know about the education or credentials or experience or whatever that is required for somebody to become a city administrator. So I'm just wondering if there will be language that will outline that the person who is the deputy or assistant or whatever will, maybe within X amount of time, if there's additional education or credentials that they would need in order to step into the position, should it become open, whether that will be part of that.
Are you meaning that should they want the position full-time, then that would be written into it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Chief Stevens?
I got nothing.
Yeah, she got a green light. Any other comments? Alderperson Smith?
Yeah, I would be in favor of this position. It would have been great to have had this when Jim Snyder left, because what a help that would have been at that time. So yes, I'm in favor of this. Working out all the in-betweens, I guess that's something we need to talk about. But I guess my question is Dennis in favor of this position? I mean, that would be my question, because why are we doing this if we don't know for sure?
This position itself, I feel like there's a lot of value in taking over when there's an absence of the city administrator. Nothing to say the history of Washington isn't full of city administrator after city administrator, but a deputy for the last 15 years would have been extremely valuable. There would have been a lot of continuity where in the past, with the mayor kind of taking over that, some things get stalled, some things get pushed that don't necessarily fall in line, but there's not that checks and balances that having the city administrator in the position would do. So with that, I mean, that's kind of the continuity that has been discussed, and that is where I feel like the value is in this position.
Thank you. Alderperson McIntyre.
Mayor, I just want to kind of go on what Alderperson Paul, sorry, Paul, I blanked on your last name there for a second, Johnson had discussed. I do agree, too. I think it would be important, and I don't know if this is what you're going at, but if we do move forward and there is a candidate that is part of our leadership staff, if there are educational portions that person would be available to better that education. I guess that's kind of what I would also like to see out of it. I would hope that any administrator would want that as well, but I think it'd be nice to be laid out just a little bit so that we, not only are they serving in that role, but they're also, if they choose to, because it would be their choice to further education, that we would support that or somehow, provide that to them would be something I think would be nice.
I agree. In fact, I did ask about that because having been a retired teacher, like the school provided, incentives to further your education, and I believe there are incentives in place that, or maybe.
We would include these classes in the training budgets that we have spelled out already.
Okay, so there is the opportunity for that, and I think we all encourage training for any position to further their the employee's knowledge. Any other comments, questions? If not, then we can move to the next section. City Attorney Walton, are we good with the?
I have nothing further unless there are other questions or comments.
Okay, thank
Thanks.
you. And now we are moving on to B, which, well, I'm going to apparently introduce Jim, and you're going to lead this section, correct?
That's right, Madam Mayor. It's a pleasure to be with you guys tonight. This is an amazing opportunity to begin the kickoff for the city administrator search. We have in front of you, everybody should have got a kickoff meeting discussion guide, as well as a schedule that we'll work through tonight just to see what makes sense to you guys. But each of the recruitments that we do, we kind of follow a general process, if you will, but it's really custom to the community. So basically, you'll guide us on the process that you want us to use. Our ultimate goal is for you, the city of Washington, to be successful and the candidate to be successful. We really see the recruitment process as basically a courting process, where we want the candidate to want to be here and be a good fit with this city council, and we want this city council to want the candidate to be here and have that good fit. So it's really a courting process. And as we go through the process, we'll have candidates that apply. We'll have candidates that we'll reach out to. We'll have candidates that'll reach out to us. We already have received multiple phone calls from interested candidates in the position asking questions. And I said, your questions will be answered, but we're waiting for this kickoff meeting tonight on the 29th. So basically, we'll get into the heat of the matter, if you will, here just in a few minutes, but just an overall view of what will happen. We will go through the process of advertising the position. This is a kind of a unique blend of a partnership and collaboration recruitment with the city. We're going to be working with your marketing team. We'll be working with your HR team as we come up with the brochure, the job announcement. We'll actually advertise this position on the city's behalf. We'll reach out to regional as well as national venues for the advertisement and local. So we'll really have a good exposure for the position. I do anticipate, as I was talking to Scott tonight as we ate dinner, I anticipate we'll probably get 50 to 60 applicants. We did have, I did the city of Salem city manager position. We had 61. I did the city of Mattoon city manager position. Those are statutory manager positions. We had 66. I did the village manager for Niles. We had 93, I believe it was, applicants for that one. But we are getting some interest in this position. Also, we are getting some concerns about the position, and the mayor and I have had that conversation. Is there going to be stability in the position? And the mayor is telling me she wants this next administrator to be stable here and be here for several years. And that's what the administrators want as well. They want that stability too when they come here, but they move their families here, they relocate here and invest in the Washington community. So that's a hurdle that we're going to have to work through. I've had some candidates call and talk to me about what's changed. Has there been a new council? Is it a new council? What can we look forward to? And I told them we'll find out more. Part of this process, the city council members, you'll have a conversation with either myself or Scott this week. We'll be getting a hold of you and having a phone conversation just to get to know you a little bit better, find out what you individually want to look for in the next administrator, what you need from the next administrator, what's going to fit here for Washington in the next administrator position, the person who's going to take that role. That way we can have those one-on-one conversations with the candidates as they call, because we'll get multiple phone calls, as I said before, we have already, and those will continue to increase over the next couple of weeks. So that's kind of the process. And once we wrap up with the application period, we will actually be able to go through all the different resumes, see what fits, what doesn't fit, who meets your requirements, who exceeds your requirements, who's going to be a great fit for the community. And then Scott and I will actually interview multiple candidates. We'll narrow that down a little bit farther, and then we'll come again and present the candidates to this council. That session there will need to be in closed session, though, because we'll be talking about individual candidates seeking office. And so once you guys decide who you want to bring in for those on-site interviews, we'll bring them back as well, and we'll sit here and facilitate those conversations with you. We'll prepare, in working with your HR team, we'll prepare the questions for the interviews as well, and we'll walk through with the candidates, make sure they're here where they need to be, and it'll just be a wonderful process. And at the end, we'll even work with you to present the offer to those candidates. So, and then once the candidate accepts the offer, we'll notify the unsuccessful candidates as well. We take that burden off your plate, and then we also will support that candidate with a leadership gift, if you will. It's a leadership book by John Maxwell to help them continue their leadership journey. So that's the process overall. Confidentiality of the applicants, we encourage that. What is your typical process? When do you permit the candidates to be made public? What's your process for that? Do you have a process when the candidates are made public? Typically, what we like to do is keep them confidential as long as possible because it protects their jobs if they're currently employed in other locations, which there will be many that are.
I don't recall that being made public at all until the very end, who we picked. Do you remember? I don't think they did.
That is normal. Some communities want to share who the finalists are, but for the process that we typically do, we make it so we try to keep the candidates protected as long as possible. But when they do become finalists, we encourage the candidates to notify their mayor and council, say, hey, this is a potential opportunity, because sometimes it slips out.
Can I ask, do you think it improves the candidate pool when they are not insured, but at least, we strive to give them confidentiality until that final?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. So basically, I have had hiring processes where we tell the candidates, hey, you're coming forward. The city's going to make it public that you're a candidate, and then the candidate said, I withdraw. Because they don't want to jeopardize their current employer. Because if you think about it, if you have it narrowed down to 5, they already have a job. So do you lose the job in hopes of being the one? And my understanding is that Maureen and Amanda are going to be our contact points through the process. Is that correct?
That's correct, and Amanda's sitting in the audience.
Thank you. Nice to see you in person. Yes.
Amanda is our new communication specialist, and Maureen is our HR person.
Thank you. And we do have a follow-up meeting tomorrow with Maureen on Zoom, and Amanda a week from tomorrow, or Monday on Zoom. So, yes, very good. Okay. So if you go to your proposed schedule, that's going to be a separate document that kind of walks us through the process. It's a very important document as far as dates, because we do try to hit these dates. And if any of the board members see a conflict that we have to push back or move, it's kind of nice to know that now. That way we can kind of pivot if possible. So basically what we have in front of you is a draft at this time. As you can see, we've already been working. We've been promoting this position on social media for the last month. So we're getting a lot of interest, a lot of feedback, a lot of comments, which is a good thing, just getting it out there. In fact, I put out there today, kickoff meeting tonight, get those resumes ready, because it's just, let's be ready for this. And the plan is to launch Friday. So basically, we'll be busy behind the scenes working with Team Washington and then Team Municipal Support, and then we'll hopefully go live on Friday with this. And that's what I've been promoting on social media as well. We have completed virtual meetings with your department heads, talking to them about what they're looking for in the next administrator, what the next administrator should know, what piece of advice would they give the next administrator before they start here, that type of thing. What should the administrator know about the mayor? What should the administrator know about the council? Because we need to know those things. Those are questions that we get asked. It's good to get that feedback from Team Washington. Next up, as what we'll actually be doing is we will be talking to the city council members, as I mentioned before. We're going to be trying to, before you leave or after the meeting, if you would get a hold of us, we'll do about a 30 to 45-minute phone call or a Zoom call, whatever you prefer, with each council member. We could do it during the day. We can do it during the night. We could do it on the weekend, whatever's more convenient for you guys. I know you guys work and have jobs. So whatever you can do to make yourselves available, it's critically important, because that gives us the opportunity to really dig into fit. And we really glean from your feedback as we have these conversations and when we're interviewing these candidates to say, okay, this is going to really work here. This isn't going to work so much, type of thing, based upon what your needs are. So that'll be the next big step for us in this room. Then we will do as I mentioned, tomorrow we'll have the virtual job announcement meeting with Maureen. Ads go live for 30 days on October 3rd, and then we'll advertise from October 3rd to November 3rd. We'll also be reaching out. So we already have several people who've called in. We'll be getting back a hold of them, say, hey, we're ready. Here's the job announcement. You know, we encourage you to apply. And then we will also be working with Amanda then, after that, on the job announcement preparation. What the job announcement is, it's basically a recruitment brochure. So the job the brochure. The job announcement will be gone. It's about basically a 2-page ad is what that is. The brochure is about a 6 to 8-page document that really kind of sells Washington, you know, to the candidates. It has some beautiful, you know, pictures in there. It's a marketing piece. And then we encourage, you know, Washington to put that on their website, on their social media post, as well as we'll tag that to all of our ads and put it in our social media work as well. And the reason we separate that out, that's based upon being very strategic. It gives us a second splash, if you will. The first splash is the announcement, second splash 2 weeks later with the brochure. So just it kind of pivots it back up to the top, if you will. It really continues to, you know, drive interest in the position. The application deadline will be, we'll post that brochure on the 17th, application deadline on the 3rd, and then Scott and I will really get really busy, and also Kim back of house, she'll get busy as well. Resume reviews, social media checks, news article background checks, and Scott and I will do the virtual interviews. So basically, what we don't want to happen is we do not want to bring you guys a candidate on the presentation day, and you guys say, Jim, what about this? And we not know what you're talking about, right? So we try to dig into all the Google checks, the social media checks, that type of things on the candidates. That way, if something is there, we'll discuss that with you. You know, that way you'll know. So candidate X is a great candidate. They've been a city manager for 25 years. They have an MPA. You know, they're a wonderful candidate. However, on such and such a day, they did this. Right, so you'll see that, and we call that a red flag in the industry, but that way you'll see that, and it could be you guys say that's a fantastic candidate. You know, we'd love to be able to talk to them in person to kind of dig into that issue more, or you could say, going to pass on that one, that type of thing. So, but we'll share that with you, and what we don't want from our perspective is to bring you that 25-year city manager with the MPA degree, and he's all shiny, and you say, Jim and Scott, what about this? So we try to find that ahead of time and bring that to you. That's part of our jobs. But once we get done with all of that, we will prepare what's called a candidate portfolio. And that portfolio is going to be basically summarize those candidates for you. It has the resumes, the cover letters, and then basically we'll be able to bring those in front of you, and you'll be able to go through those candidates, and we'll make recommendations. You know, these are the candidates we highly recommend. These candidates are good, but not as highly recommended because of A, B, and C, and D type of thing. And then you as a council will then go through, yeah, let's bring this person, and that type of thing. We typically try to encourage you to bring in up to 5. You know, we can do 6. More than 6 gets very unwieldy. We have in the schedule 2 days for on-site interviews. We can do up to 3 candidates a day. Beyond that, it's not really possible. But you know, we can definitely try to make it work if necessary. But that's why we say kind of up to 5 candidates. That seems to be kind of the sweet spot. Sometimes communities want to bring in 3, sometimes 2, sometimes 5. It's based upon the candidate pool, the wealth of the pool. So once you guys decide who you want to bring in on site, then they become the finalists. And those finalists, then we reach out to them and say, are you still interested in being the next city administrator for the city of Washington? If they are, they will continue in the process. If they're not, we will let you know in case you want to pull somebody else into the process. Once we do that, we will do we'll begin their full background checks. That's going to go into everything. That looks at their credit rating, education verifications, criminal, driver status, financial. It goes into the whole gambit. And then also we do DISC assessments on our finalists. That way you'll know their leadership strengths and their behavior styles. And then we will actually prepare what's called a DISC communication guide and also a DISC wheel, if you will. And basically it'll show how they interact with you as a council. And it'll also show how your best way to communicate with them where they're at, and they'll know how to communicate with you where you're at. It's a wonderful, amazing tool. And then reference checks. We'll contact the references and dig into the references as well. So a lot of back-end work going on. What we do have as presented after the Thanksgiving holiday, December 3rd and 4th as being back on site for the interviews. Is that a showstopper for anybody here on those dates? That will be a commitment from this body for, depending upon how many candidates you pick. So basically, the interview will last about an hour and a half per candidate. So basically, you will meet with those candidates for about an hour and a half, have a 10-minute to 15-minute break, and then the next candidate for an hour and a half, next candidate for an hour and a half, and then the next day, next hour and a half with the candidate, hour and a half with the candidate. Basically, it's a big investment of your time, but it's very, very, very well worth it. You'll get to know them a little bit better, get to talk to them, get to feel them out, that type of thing. In the process, as we'll talk about a little bit here also, what I typically try to do is get them to have the candidates will meet with the leadership team, have a panel interview session with the leadership team as well, and also get a tour. But also you can look at maybe a community stakeholder panel if you prefer. So there's a lot of different options. It's a full day for the candidate. They'll be here all day long, sometimes into the night, depending upon the But those dates work. We'll pencil those in for now.
May I interrupt here?
Yes.
It's a Wednesday and a Thursday,
Yes.
if anybody's wondering. The 3rd, December 3rd is a Wednesday, and December 4th a Thursday.
Do you have any idea, like, timing of that, like when? Because, I mean, like, if we had 3 candidates, right, I mean, that's 4.5 hours of interview time plus break, so you're 5-6 hours. So would it be something we'd want to do, like, starting early in the day, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, that's a great question. Basically, the candidates will go through the same process, right? So they will always come into you at the end of their process. So say for example, candidate A will be here at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then they will go on a tour. And that tour is going to take about an hour and 15 minutes. After the tour is over, they get a small break to use the restroom. Then they'll meet with your leadership team, and that meeting will last about an hour and a half or hour and 15 minutes. Then they will get a small break or lunch, and then meet with you. So that'll happen around 1 or noon. So your time will start about in the afternoon and go anywhere from like noon to about 6. And they will start, so basically it stacks. So basically, and the way we schedule it for our process, no candidate will run into another candidate. So basically, I'm staggering all their start times, begin times, and end times. So if Scott's a candidate and I'm a candidate, I won't even know Scott's a candidate. And that's done by design. Because a lot of city managers and administrators know each other, right? So your obligation will mainly be the afternoon, early evening on each of those days. On the 4th, if you guys are able, we will have deliberation on there. So typically what happens is the council will talk about it afterwards and say, you know what, I really like candidate A. You know, what do you think? Okay, let's go with candidate A and make an offer. Then we'll work through an offer sheet. Or you can say, you know what, I like candidate A, but I like candidate B too. I'd like to see if we can bring them back for a second interview. We can do that as well. It really depends upon your feelings after the initial interview, that type of thing. Or it could be, I like candidate A. I want to get to know them more. Let's bring them back and let's have coffee. Let's go to lunch, type of thing. Just do more informal interview type thing. So the process is your process. So on the 5th, if you guys do make an offer on the 4th, I'll reach out, make the contact with the candidate. If they accept, we'll know, and then they'll hopefully start then on January 5th, because most candidates will take 30 to 60 days before they'll begin employment with the city. Anything shocking out there? Anything that doesn't make sense? It's a good process. It works.
What's the best practice for feedback from either leadership, non-elected city leadership?
Yes.
Or
I'm glad you asked that.
yes. Stakeholder groups?
Yes. So basically, what we basically do, regardless of either group, I tell the candidates, there's no secret. I tell the candidates, when you're here, because Scott and I will meet with the candidate, but we're first stop. When you're here, you are on. All right, so every encounter you have is an interview. When you're on your tour, I want you to interview those tour guides, and those tour guides are interviewing you. When you're meeting with the panel, you're interviewing them, they're interviewing you. If it's a community stakeholders group, you're interviewing them, you're interviewing you. And what Scott and I did was we meet with them afterwards and get their feedback, and then during the deliberation point, then we share with you, this is what your tour guides thought about candidate A, B, C, and D. This is what the community stakeholders thought about A, B, C, and D. This is what your leadership team thought about A, B, C, and D. So you have that information as you go through your deliberation process. Some communities like to have direct feedback from the leadership team, and we can bring them into deliberations if that's what you so choose as well. That's a great question. But it's every part of it is for the selection process. So the candidates, you can get a good feel. Even when the candidate comes in and speaks to a member of the administrative staff team, we'll ask them, what'd you think of the candidate? Well, they were rude. Well, there's a flag, right? Or they weren't very talkative. Well, that's interesting. They should be trying to sell themselves. You know, so it's little things. Everything kind of plays together. So, and hopefully, like I said, the candidate will start the first part of January. If you guys do want to have a second interview, of course, it'll push it back a week or two. Just really depends upon the process. Okay. Let's go back to the discussion guide itself. Number 4 in the discussion guide, is there any local candidates of interest that you want us to reach out to that you think might be a good person to reach out to that might want the position?
Would we contact you, or you don't expect a name out loud, do you?
Well, typically when we do these, it's an executive session, so nobody minds mentioning names. But you could, when we have our initial conversation, our private conversation, we can do that if you like.
Or anybody here can email you
Yes.
names that?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. And then I did give you guys, you should have received.
Oh, just a minute. Alderperson Martin, did you want to say something?
No, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Everybody should have received a couple worksheets that kind of highlighted preferred behavioral traits and professional traits. Did the council receive that? So and
Yes.
There was adjectives and adverbs that you can circle. If you haven't got that back to me, if you would, we use that primarily for the job brochure and a little bit in the job announcement as well. It helps us to kind of identify the type of candidate you're looking for, the strengths that you're looking for in those professional skill sets, and the behavior styles that you prefer in your next administrator. And that helps with fit. Those are, it looks like it's a very important tool that we use.
I'm glad you reminded us. I noticed one of them says Circle 5, so there is a,
Circle 5, yes. There's a limit. They're all good, but just try to narrow it down and pick the best. Right? It's kind of like that those postgraduate tests. Circle the best answer, right?
Mayor, that was sent to us in our email?
pardon me?
Was that, you said that was sent to us in our email?
Yes.
It was sent
9/16.
by Maureen.
I know I took a screenshot of it, and that's why I knew it was there, but I'm guilty.
That's okay. If you could, you could send it on to us, that'd be wonderful. That's very helpful. And also, it helps me with alignment. So basically, what I do is I go through those worksheets from the council. I also ask this from the leadership team as well. And it helps me to see alignment. So if everybody wants an administrator that has a great sense of humor, then that's pretty well aligned. They want an administrator with a great sense of humor. If everybody on the council wants an administrator who's tough, that's aligned. They're tough, that type of thing. That way it shows me what value you're placing on this.
Thank you for reminding us.
Yeah, no problem. Now going into the meat and potatoes, and we'll use this in the job announcement. Education preference and requirements. So Typically, what we recommend is a master's degree preferred to be the education, bachelor's degree required, looking at public administration, political science, law, business administration. Goes back to your question, Madam Council Member. So basically, public administration, MPA is your typical city administrator, city manager, education, but there can be non-typical as well. Mine was political science, and I think yours was Parks and Rec, is that right? And then business administration, law. Is that agreeable to the council with master's degree being preferred, bachelor's degree required? What's your thoughts? Is that okay?
For those at home, that's a yes.
Can I just say one thing, though?
Yes.
Yeah, bachelor's required, master's preferred, that's fine. I don't want to paint anybody into a corner, though. I mean, you just said Parks and Rec, you know, it's not listed on there, so I don't want any, like, specific, you know, master's or bachelor's. Okay. Yeah.
Kind of dovetailing into that, professional certifications preferred. We basically have one credential for city managers. It's the International City Managers Association Credential Manager. So basically what that is that manager or administrator or an assistant administrator or a deputy administrator, assistant manager, deputy manager, or department head. It could be a police chief or a fire chief. Basically, they're required by the International City Managers Association to have a minimum of anywhere from 6 to 10 years as a department head or a manager or administrator, plus a master's degree or a bachelor's degree before getting credentialed. And then you basically take a self-assessment, and then once you have to complete your self-assessment, and then you're also required to complete 40 hours of continuous education every year. So basically, that's your credential manager. I recommend that it's recommended. Some communities have it as required, some don't acknowledge it at all. I am still a credentialed city manager. There's not a lot that are, but I think it's a nice feather in the cap to have, because basically what that also indicates is that manager or administrator complies with the International City Managers Association's code of ethics, which is very important because that brings professionalism to the manager's office. Does that make sense? So you tell me, it's your choice, of course. Preferred? Okay.
Preferred?
Yeah, I was going to say, to me, some of these preferred things make sense, even like on the degree requirement. I mean, I think it's okay to list out some of those ones that we think are preferred. But like your point, Mike, I wouldn't say it's a hard, fast requirement. I wouldn't eliminate anybody because of that, but maybe we do have some preference on the degree types.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And then what we recommend also is 7 years of minimum management experience. That can be in a department head level, assistant level, or also the manager's level, because you could have an assistant manager that's in charge of 200, 300 people. You could have a department head that's going to be in charge of a police department, a police chief or fire chief, or a public works director that could be in charge of 180 people. So that shows you leadership, supervision skills, budgeting for those larger departments. But it really, the 7 to 10 kind of gives you, they have a genuine amount of supervisory skills and management skills. That's what we recommend, 7 to 10 years. Are you guys okay with that? And then linked to that below, I'll put there, yes. Military officers. We do see, I'm the chairman of the Illinois City Managers Association's Veterans Committee, veteran myself. But we do see a lot of military officers coming out, your light colonels or full bird colonels coming out with command experience from military bases. Scott and I both know a rear admiral that was in charge of a naval base that came out into city management. Are you guys open to that type of non-traditional candidate? Okay.
Yes.
It sounds like a resounding yes.
Okay, thank you. Always got to put a plug in for those veterans. So the Next one is a combination of education and experience. Are you guys open for a combination? It's like you might have a person with a master's degree, but they only have 3 years of experience as a manager. Are you open to that combination, or you have a bachelor's degree in 5 years type of thing?
I guess I would be masters in 5 masters in 5 and bachelor's in 7 maybe.
Okay. What about someone without a college education that has 20 years of management experience? Okay. Okay, next, dropping down, we do have the position compensation and benefits. Joni was great, and she gave me the previous agreement, so I was able to glean a lot from that. And so I've kind of plugged into my worksheet already, but I'll bounce that off of you to see if that still rings a bell, if that still resonates, or if you want to change that type of thing. The starting salary range that I'm proposing is 170 to 185. What's your thoughts about that?
Could you just share with us how you arrived there? I
That was a
mean,
conversation.
Just besides the past.
Yeah, that and the conversation I had with Joni, and also for other recruitments that I do, I think that's going to put you in a very, very strong competition rate. I think it's going to draw a lot of interest in that. We can move it wherever you need to move it to, but I think you're going to pull a lot of interest at that rate.
I spent maybe a half hour or so just trying to pull, from what I would see as some of our peer communities, and some of them don't make it very easy to find. Obviously, as you look at municipal salaries, you see base compensation and, the additional things, benefits and such. So are we talking about base,
This is
total compensation?
This is just base. This is
Okay.
base. This is the salary. This is the starting range too. So basically, somebody that comes on board, what we'll do is if whatever range you pick here tonight, we will advertise, and so basically say the City of Washington starting salary range will be 170 to 185. And basically, what we'll do is when we have our preliminary interviews with our candidates, we'll say, okay, the starting salary range is 170 to 185. Where do you need to be if offered the job? And they'll tell us, the range is fine, or I need to be at 170, or I need to be at 185 or higher because I'm already making 210. And that's the conversation we'll have. And then what we'll do is we'll double down on that the day of the interviews. When we meet with them, we'll say, okay, what salary range do you need to be at? Because what I don't want to happen is we bring somebody in front of you for the day of the interviews, and they come back you offer them the job, and they say, yeah, I'll take the job at 225. Well, no, the salary range was 170 to 185. So if you set the range, we'll hold tight to the range. But know that sometimes we will bring you candidates, and when we do the candidate portfolio stage, that we'll tell you where they need to be, and you might fall in love with that candidate, and I'll tell you they need to be at 190. That's their minimum, and it's going to be up to this board to decide whether to bring them in for the interviews, knowing that they need to be at 190.
As a new member of the council, I don't have a great grasp on what we've paid administrators in the past, so I don't have a lot of the information of what Joni probably shared with you. I think what I did find is, a peer community of ours was, with a comparable population, was a fair bit lower than that. And I'm sure there's nuance here that I probably don't appreciate. Their structure of government, the responsibilities are asked of that individual and their role. So, I think we'd be leaning on you for some enlightenment on that. It feels significant, and I'm not saying it's too high, but it's not,
I think it's a very attractive range. If you want to come down, I wouldn't come down far, because you get what you pay for, right? So basically, when you're looking to attract the candidates to your city, people are looking at that salary range, and they're going to be moving based upon the attractiveness of that community as well as what that compensation is. I do a lot of classification and compensation studies, and that range is not astronomical for the size of your community and your location in the state and your draw in this metropolitan area. So that's a very competitive wage and rate for this area. And it's going to be a good draw for the two factors. It's the C and the C. It's culture and compensation, right? So the compensation is what we're setting, and the culture is what we have to provide, right? So they're going to be looking for what's the culture in Washington, and then how do I fit into that culture, and what's the compensation? So that's the two things they're going to be looking at. So if you want to come down, I wouldn't come down too far because it's a very attractive offer there.
Well, I agree, it's an attractive offer, but, I mean, we have to balance, we could make it 500,000 to be very attractive, I mean.
That'd be unrealistic, yes.
I get that, but at what point does unrealistic begin?
And this
right?
this is realistic.
Okay.
Would it be entertaining to drop it just to like 160 to 185 with the $25,000 variable there, where you're just dropping the lower portion?
Yeah, I try to keep the range a little tighter than that. So if you're going to drop it to 160, just go 160 to 180.
These other compensation elements, does that go into play too? So if you have like a higher base range, how does that work? Is that something that, if you have a lower base range, but you offer like more compensation options, how does that play into it?
Yeah, so basically, I captured down what you had, and we'll talk about things that I see being offered, which is a little bit lower, so it kind of plays into that as well. So like, for example, you had 120 hours in the bank vacation time. Typically, what I see is 3 weeks instead of the 4 weeks. So that's a significant change in benefit as well. And then, of course, you had 7 sick leave days in the bank. I typically see 5, and that's why my recommendation would be 5. So I'm not trying to raise the bar on you. I'm just trying to see where I think we could be very effective in our offer.
Because I know our benefits are really
They're
good.
strong, yeah.
Very strong.
I like 'em.
And so that's why I think maybe
But
this,
but keep in mind, a lot of cities have strong benefits. Because again, I do a lot of classification and compensation studies, that's with benefits as well. And so when I compare benefits, there's just a minute difference between communities on their benefits.
I would share that the last city administrator that we had, if we were to move forward into next year, he would be fitting in that range.
Yeah, that's what I was going to kind of ask, if we could, not here, but, I mean, maybe to council later or something, share that information, the previous city administrator, so we can just see it and know that, hey, what you're suggesting here, this falls in line with what we had.
I can get the number for sure. I think this year it would have been 167. So any type of a raise at the end of the year would have brought you into that range, but
170.
I can get that for sure.
And then maybe with the rest of these listed on here too, just to know where we were at. Okay.
So I guess the 160 to 180 wouldn't really be out of the realm of where we currently are. I still feel like that's,
It seems
maybe
like
I'll
it's-
throw my name in the hat,
If you're at 167 now, 160 to 180, it's right in the middle. So I think that's a good range. And I think it's still attractive.
how about the majority of you, 160 to 180? Okay, it sounds like 160 to 180.
And then scheduled pay increases, in your last contract you had any time with city council approval. Typically what I see is annually on that. So do you want to leave it any time or change it to annually?
Annually?
Okay.
Well, I speak for myself.
My last one, is it normal to have anything tied in there to like, I guess the way I read it here, it's like, it's just, there's a pay increase, but is it normal to have anything tied to like specific goals?
Well, I would encourage that. That'd be set by you guys, yeah.
Excuse me, let me clarify. I didn't mean annually automatically. I meant annually related to like an evaluation.
Okay.
Yep. And that's how I took it as well. I would encourage the goal setting. That's a fantastic idea. The last contract, you had a vehicle allowance. Initially, it was $350 a month plus mileage for out-of-town travel, but Joni did say that it went up after that initial amount. Do you still want to do a vehicle allowance, or would you prefer a city vehicle?
I think our Ray Forsythe, the one prior to Jim, he wanted a vehicle. So I think, and then Jim wanted the allowance. So is it something that we, as we interview people, or is there, well, Mike, you probably know about this more than some of the others.
We have a leasing program through this city. I think it'd just be behoove of us to allow that to be a leased vehicle if we're going to provide that. I'd rather not be a compensation issue. I think I see lower down here residency requirements. Again, we can talk about that, but again, I would think we'd use our lease program.
It's a really good point.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And then mobile phone, I'm assuming is a yes. And then laptop, I'm assuming is a yes. Okay. Then professional development was mentioned here before by the acting administrator. You guys support associations and development. Okay. Vacation leave, your previous agreement had 120 hours in the bank to begin, and then the manager accrued 200 hours per year. He was able to carry over 40 hours of vacation leave. The rest of it he lost. Again, I think that if you start with 3 weeks in the bank, that would be very, very significant. So, well, I guess it's 120 hours. I didn't do my math right, did I? So I think that's a good offer. I do. I think it's a good offer. So, do you guys want to stay consistent with that? Okay.
I wanted to go back to the professional development. So I believe Jim's was, and I know this is the past city administrator, so you guys can do what you want moving forward, but I believe he was allowed, whether it was one national conference and then a state conference, so it was ILCMA, and then it might be the IML national conference, or it might be the state IML. So might want to look at that, the development on which and where, because those are also kind of some big ticket items if you're looking at the national level.
Good. Sick leave, he was, the administrator started with 7 in the bank. I recommend 5. Are you guys okay with that? Okay. And then holidays would be the same as the personnel policy. Personnel days be the same as the personnel policy. Do you guys do, I didn't see this in his agreement. Some communities, I know Charleston did this, they do IMRF, employee contribution is paid by the city. Is that something the city's done in the past for their administrators? Do you guys understand what I'm saying by that?
Yeah, but I think that's a Joni
Yeah,
question.
I don't think, yeah. If you want to contribute to yourself, I'm fine with that. If you want to give the 1, 2, 3, 5, 10%, then go for it. But I don't think the city should be on the hook for additional contributions.
Okay.
I don't think he's talking additional. That would be, so.
In lieu of. Yeah.
Well, yeah, so the city pays an IMRF portion for me, and then I have to pay out of my own check for my portion. I think this is asking whether the city wants to cover my portion as well.
Yes.
Like for the city administrator.
So basically, like the IMRF rate is going to vary every year based upon your pension level through IMRF. So it could be, let's just say, for example, this year it's 7.6, which I'm just making that number up. So that's 7.6%. That's paid by the employee. I'm getting that wrong, aren't I? It's the employee's percentage. Then the city would pay that. So they pay the employer share and the employee share.
How common is this?
I don't see it a lot, but some communities have it, and Charleston has it, but I've never had it myself. I would like to have it, but I didn't have it. So.
Could we save it as a negotiating
say
type of
Yes, we sure
situation?
can. I like that. And then, do you offer a similar? Do you offer an additional deferred compensation plan for the administrator? And does the city make a contribution?
That's a Joni question.
Okay. And then the health, dental, and vision insurance is same as the personnel policy. Severance was set in your last administrators as 20 weeks. How much severance do you want to offer this administrator? And hopefully you'll never use it. 20 weeks is the max per Illinois statute that you can offer. It used to be uncapped, but the standard can range anywhere from 8 weeks to 20 weeks. Some summers 6.
I would prefer to go lower, much lower.
Do 8 weeks, be 2 months.
What is your experience? Because honestly, I've never seen one that wasn't 20 weeks. And I don't know why that is, but I can think of probably 7 or 8 administrator contracts I've seen, and they all were 20 weeks.
I'm just the opposite, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'm a fan of 20 weeks, but I've never seen one that was 20 weeks.
Wow. Okay.
But I'm a fan of 20 weeks. I'm not gonna argue against it. So, no, so.
And a lot of that, help me if I'm wrong on this, depends on the circumstances of the city, the volatility, if you will, the turnover.
That's right.
Okay.
And can I ask what this applies to? Termination with cause?
No, without cause.
Without cause?
With cause, there's
Pure-
no
yeah.
severance.
Okay.
So basically, if City Administrator Jim's doing an awesome job, but you just don't like that I have glasses and you want to let me go, then I get the severance.
Okay.
I mean, I would down for 12 weeks if we don't have to go to 20, but if 20 is required, I guess.
It's capped.
If you think it's safest, you're the
I don't
attorney,
want to
I will
suggest
follow
that it's
your rec-
required. It's just what I have noticed because I always think, boy, severance. And I view it as, what I call it, just to be, blunt, is political protection. So if the politics
Yes.
dictate that
Yes,
you're not rowing in the same direction as the,
that's right.
so not cause, that's not cause. even though
Unalignment.
One could make an argument that that is a cause, but anyway, I think that this position in particular carries more risk of political termination than other positions. I may be wrong on that.
No, you're exactly right.
I would agree with that 100%, and typically where you will find this, and I think you would see it from an incoming manager, would be in a situation where it has been kind of a lot of turmoil, infighting amongst the council, the mayor, that sort of thing, or near the end of the current election cycle for the sitting council members. Say, for example, I'm applying for this position and you all are up for election in April. I'm going to want some sort of protection because if I'm going to come in now and I spend the next 7, 8, 9 months with you and a whole new group is elected, I could be very easily pushed out the door. So again, the circumstances of the hiring and the timeliness of that and how it relates to the election cycle is important. And I would say that 20 weeks is a plus certainly for an incoming manager, but I think it's something that could be negotiated too. You could have a starting point and then negotiate up to 20.
And realizing that we just had an election, in April, and I was just seated in May, so that's the beginning of my term.
Correct.
I think, the amount that we paid our last city manager to not work is a real sticking point for people in this community. And I think it's incumbent upon us to try to keep that number as low as possible. And I understand how it impacts the outlook of a potential candidate as they look at this job. But, we need to start at a place that's in the best interest of the community and go from there. So that's my input.
Yeah, I would agree with that. To me, I look at 12 weeks, that's 3 months practically. I'm fine with negotiable as well, start at 12 or just negotiable. This is Pleasantville, so why wouldn't they want to be here? So, we just, I'll put it out there and it's on record, at Pleasantville, Washington, so. But I think
like it.
12 is a good number.
So you went 12 weeks and then just know in the back of our minds it's negotiable?
No, I was going to,
Well, I
That's-
understand that's not realistic.
That's not
12
realistic.
To me is
Yeah.
a lot. I mean,
Yeah, but it's 8 weeks less than
Okay, so two people don't agree, so any other suggestion here?
I'm just
I
curious.
see Alderperson Johnson wanting to say something. Yeah.
Alderperson Lundy has his light on.
Wait a minute.
I can turn it on.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Here we go again.
I was
Sorry,
just gonna say-
Alderperson Blundy and then Alderperson Johnson.
So department heads, we said something there, but I don't remember what it was for department heads.
Protection part?
Yeah, for just that, I mean, the same.
All of
same
us
thing,
have
right?
20 weeks.
20 weeks.
Oh,
So
well, that's,
with that in mind, I think it's hard to tell
Yeah.
a city administrator you're not going to get the same as your department
Yes.
heads.
Wait a minute, because that wasn't typical. That was before the election.
But it's still in place,
It's
right?
still
I
in
mean,
place.
Well,
we
it's
still
still
have
in
that.
place, but I don't know, well, I'm sorry, I should just be listening.
I'm just saying to be hard, I think, to tell a city administrator you're not going to get that same 20 winks that your department head gets. I think that's an odd
But I think that
situation,
was
isn't it?
created for a different purpose at the time. I mean.
But I think it serves the same purpose, doesn't it? I mean, for the political turmoil or whatever.
But that was right before the election. This is, they were, like, nobody knew who the new mayor was.
No,
mean-
I get that. I'm just saying, I think it's hard to tell your city administrator you don't get what your department head gets, is my only thought. I'm just sharing
Alderperson
a
Johnson.
thought.
Okay, I agree with that thought. Actually, now that I know that 20 weeks is what everyone else gets, that would be a hard thing. Not even sure how to say this, which is why I've been sitting down here with this look on my face. I am assuming that any candidates who are applying for this position know that there's a bit of a tumultuous history with our city and city administrators. I would hate to limit our candidate pool by something like this, because let's be honest, we all hope that it just works out and we don't have to pay them severance because they love us and they stay. I would hate to limit our candidate pool by lowballing on something like this, and I understand it really has been a sticking point with residents. It was a big sticking point, like, really, he gets paid not to work? I barely get paid to work. I don't know. Sorry, that didn't.
One other comment, and I'd like Mr. Hart to address this. One way to look at the severance is, again, I mentioned the whole political termination issue, but I think your candidates view it as sort of a deterrent to a termination that is other than for really good grounds. The more you have to pay in the form of severance, the less likely you are to terminate somebody unless they really need to be terminated. So it does, it's really a protection to the employee, not just financial protection, but also operates as a deterrent, because it is a lot of money. I mean, let's face it. And I think you will have candidates, and again, I want Mr. Arndt to address this. I think you will have candidates that will place a lot of value on that protection. Even, the salary is important. I don't want to downplay that, but of the benefits that we're talking about, most administrators and managers I've worked with will place that at the very top of the list without question. That's just my experience.
just to clarify my earlier comment too, when I said 1 week, I was kidding. I'm an employer myself. I have employees that work for me. And when I sit down to make job offers, I don't start offering things. I say to them, what do you think? Art of negotiation. So it's just a very odd situation to be openly negotiating or discussing our positions on points to be negotiated at a later date with a candidate, So that was my, joking way of saying, let's start at the bottom and see where we end up. But because I'm sure there'll be a candidate or two that pulls this up on YouTube. I want to clarify that.
So is that a thing where you can say, well, what do you think? And knowing what
can we
this
just put it-
conversation was.
Again, most of the times we do these meetings, we're in executive session. However, so we will have multiple candidates viewing this. You can wave at them. They know what we're thinking, but that's okay, because I try to share with them the benefits, the pay, the salary, And they're going to be encouraged by hearing what you guys are saying tonight. You know, and I do applaud the city attorney for saying what he said, because he's exactly right. And it goes back to what you said, Madam Mayor, on our previous phone call from a couple of days ago. When you're seeking, and again, hello out there, when you're seeking the next city administrator to want to be here for several years, you know, you don't want that turnover. This council is trying to end that turnover. And then you're investing in this administrator, and this severance is a good deterrent, but it's also an investment into the administrator.
I mean, can we just simply have this as negotiable and then it just not to exceed 20 weeks?
It can exceed 20 weeks, but yeah.
Yeah. So is that, we'll go again, like we did earlier, this is negotiable? Jim?
That's
Negotiable?
what I got.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I would also add, I believe we've only had one city administrator out of our past number that have actually claimed severance. I think everybody else has moved on without that use.
And as far as the employment agreement, I'm assuming it's going to be the length of your term, Madam Mayor, is that correct?
I would think so, because I believe that's what our municipal code indicates also. Well, no more than 5 years, it could be extended. Not that I read it, but I did.
And then going back to the comment that was made about the performance, the compensation increases, annual evaluation with goal setting? I love that. And going into the next one, residency requirement, your last administrator was required to live within the city. What's your stance on that now?
Our municipal code states that the city administrator live within the city limits.
Okay.
And I support that.
I support as well.
Me too.
Me too.
And then the last agreement had a relocation assistance of $5,000. I think that's a little low. So to be able to get somebody to move here, to move period, it costs a lot of money. So I would suggest that you raise that to a minimum of $8,000. Are you guys okay with that? I know I moved a lot, so.
Is 8 enough?
I'm being conservative. You were at 5, I'm trying to
I
get you
thought
close.
10 at minimum, and 15 was like what popped in my brain, but
10?
10 would be
I
probably
prefer
good.
10, but I was trying to be conservative.
I've moved a lot too, and 10 sounds good.
Okay,
I'm good with 10.
good. Thank you. The next question I'll be asking you guys, or Scott will be asking you guys, just to consider, not to answer tonight. When you think about your successful candidate for this position, what's a must-have? So just be thinking about that. We'll talk to you guys about that in our individual interviews. The next one down there, which is also very important for us, what's a must-avoid in your next candidate? That type of thing. It could be a behavioral issue. It could be a skill set, that type of thing. What's a must-avoid? I got a chuckle over there, but yeah, what's a must-avoid? So be thinking about that.
Please don't answer that on the record.
No. That's going to be private conversation. The next one going down, selection process alternatives. I'm assuming this will be the selection committee, the council and the mayor, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then participation of a director's panel, I always recommend that. Do you guys want to have that?
Can you explain that?
Yeah, basically what it is it's an opportunity this is a win-win situation for your candidates as well. It's an opportunity for the candidates to meet with your directors in an informal setting. They'll be in a room, we call it a panel. So basically the candidate gets an opportunity to talk to your directors for about an hour and 15 minutes. Any question they want to ask them, and then your panel can ask the candidates questions about them, anything they want to ask them within legal requirements.
You're talking department heads.
Yes, department
Yes,
heads.
yes, I think that's a must, correct? Because I recall Joni and I having a conversation that during one of the past job searches, there was one candidate that didn't even want to talk to the department heads. So I think that would be a red flag.
Well, it is a
We
red
would greatly
flag.
appreciate it.
Yes.
We would.
Yes. Well, the candidates appreciate it too. And I have had a recruitment in another state where the candidate went through the whole process, spent the whole day with the city, walked out the door, and I'll walk them out the door at the end when they leave, or Scott will. And we basically ask them, okay, what's your thoughts? If you're offered the position, will you take it? The candidate looked at me and says, Jim, I love you. I love the mayor and the council. I cannot work for that leadership team. I can't do it. I'm out. And that's okay. I'd rather know then than 6 months into the job and the person bails, right? So there has to be a fit. And so I tell the candidates, you're evaluating everybody you talk to. Can you work with the council? Can you work with the leadership team? And then, of course, the leadership team, we're asking them, can you work with this administrator? You know, because that's very important information. Other stakeholders, what's your thoughts on that?
Many of us ran on involving the community, and I think that's very important. In fact, I might be so bold as to suggest the two persons here be part of this stakeholders panel because they're interested enough to actually be here. And that's what you're talking about, people from the community, correct?
Whoever you want to participate on that panel, they would basically have an opportunity to meet the candidate, just the same as the department heads. We'll have them in their own room. They'll talk to them for about an hour, and they'll ask questions that they have. The candidate will ask questions that they have, and then we get the stakeholders' feedback.
And how many do you suggest?
That one there, I would say tops 12 people, 8 to 12.
Okay. I personally would like that, but it's up to the group here.
How frequently do you have a candidate meet with council and leadership and community? Is that become a arduous process, or?
It is very frequent to meet with the council, the leadership team panel, and the community, and the tour guides. Not very common anymore to meet with community stakeholders. But I always offer it because it depends upon the uniqueness of each community.
The reason I like the stakeholders is because we're trying to, project a different, not different, we're trying to project an image that we care what the community thinks. And this would fit right in with that.
I think the value it brings too for your candidates, they can ask those stakeholders things that are really relevant to the community and get a better feel for the community. And also, the candidate can really build alliances and support networks with the community, you know, and feel welcomed by that group.
I guess I'm not opposed to this. I think it could be a very decent thing. I guess my only question is, just looking at the timeline and everything, how would we promote something like this, and who would pick that group? So like,
I personally think we would each pick a person or two, like, you know, who my two people are, but, you know, and they may not even be interested. I think
Or persons who serve on committees and.
persons who served on committees, who, because as you all know, we just finished filling the boards and commissions, and those people actually actively put in applications.
It would occur during the day, so they had to have some daytime availability.
Right, so that could eliminate several people, but we could start with the people on the boards and commissions.
How does that impact the confidentiality of the process if you're looking for these people, you know, and?
They won't know until the day of.
They won't know who they're meeting with? You mean our community board wouldn't know who they're meeting with?
No.
Right.
Are they held to the same employment laws as like a hiring and firing supervisor? So they can't ask like, hey, you have any kids?
We
all
will
that
guide
kind
them.
of stuff?
We will guide them through that process.
Okay.
That's why we're here. Hey, I don't usually have a problem with them or the department heads. It's my council members that ask wily questions.
Well, should we go around and see who is interested in having stakeholders? Should we start with Alderperson Martin, since he's,
I like the idea, but I'm trepidatious with the people being able to know who's running, and maybe they wouldn't like having to meet the stakeholders, and then just a little bit of risk. But if that's not a big deal, then I'm okay with it.
well, how about we just, like, you're okay with it, but there's other questions, so maybe we could just do this initial, and then maybe the questions could be asked later like getting the details. So you would be okay with more discussion at a later time, like what exactly that means, correct?
Yeah, more discussion or I'm a no.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. More discussion. Okay.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think we have a minimum of 6 to guarantee this.
Okay. Alderperson Blondie.
Yeah, and so I was wondering, maybe, we talked about getting a better relationship with our other taxing bodies. So I didn't know if it'd be like school board people we could use, or, library or park district or something like that. They may be good people to lean on to solicit their input, and then they would feel like we are really trying to start to build that relationship with them.
Alderperson Moss.
As long as you don't feel like there have been any intended negative consequences of asking them to go through that additional step.
No, I
You've
don't
seen
think
in
so.
the past, I would be supportive of it.
Alderperson Ernst.
I'm okay with the idea with more discussion. I like the idea of other taxing bodies, citizens that like to engage, and business leaders. So,
Alderperson Smith.
I'm in favor as long as the time permits. I mean, it's a lengthy process already. I do like the taxing body idea. I think it's a good way to involve everyone.
Alderperson Johnson.
Yeah, I agree. Excuse me. If we're going to do it, I like the idea of people from the different taxing bodies.
Do you have your answer?
I do, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And then as far as the tour of the city, this is almost a given. Just want to make sure you guys want to do that. And then this is another good opportunity to be able to bring people into the process that you want to bring into the process, to have some one-on-one time with the candidates. Because what I typically ask for you to do is to have 2 people provide the tour, 1 person to drive, of course, 1 person to ask questions. And then basically they can engage with the candidate. And I get a lot of good feedback from the tour guides on the, for you guys to consider from each of these, interviews that we do. And then you don't have to answer this now, but second interview is always an option as well. Like I said, if you get to the point where you think, yeah, I really want to find a little bit more about candidate B or candidate A or both, then that's always an option for you guys too. Okay. Next, we have preferred advertising venues. Is there any preferences you guys have? We basically have this down to a science. We know where to advertise, but there might be some unique source I'm not familiar with. Is there any source that you guys might want us to hit?
No, my question was more about geography. Do you have better success recruiting administrators for, Midwestern small towns like Washington from the Midwest? You mentioned national sources and things like that. I suppose, there's always somebody in California who's trying to get back home, or,
That's right.
something of that nature. But
Yes, you're exactly right. Most of our candidates will come from the surrounding environs, if you will. They'll come from Iowa, they'll come from Illinois, some from Wisconsin. Then you'll get some from some farther out. And you're exactly right. What we really look at is one of the questions we ask is, why Washington? What's your draw to Washington? And then so red flags for me is when I call somebody, or Scott calls somebody and says, hey, this is Jim Arndt from Arndt Municipal Support calling on behalf of the city of Washington. Are you still interested in this position? And they tell me, what position? Ding, 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 right? I'm thinking, okay. And then I have to say, the city of Washington city administrator position, where's that located? Right, so it tells me they're just throwing spaghetti on the wall, right? So you'll get some of that as well, but we try to dig into those where, like, okay, why is this person from California interested in Washington? Well, guess what? Their mom lives here, right? We wouldn't know that though until we reached out and talked to them about it, that type of thing. So it's that draw. If we get that draw here, or if they're from the area here originally, and there's a passion to come back here, that's more that stick-to-itiveness, right? There's a reason to stay here. But no preferred venues that you guys are aware of that I need to be aware of? Because we'll hit all the, like I said, we have this down to a science. Okay. Do you guys have a local advertising requirement? Of course, we'll put it on the website. We'll put it on your social media links as well. But is there any local advertising requirements you guys have by ordinance here? Okay. Very good. Okay. So next that we'll have to do is we'll set up meetings with you guys, individual phone calls and/or Zoom calls, if you will. Scott and I will be reaching out to you guys to get those set up. We'll probably reach out to you guys tomorrow, see what time we can get on your calendars. If you know there's a good time on your calendar now before we leave, you can come talk to us, and we can set that up tonight too, whatever you prefer. Any questions, concerns, comments, or suggestions for us?
I had a question. Do you follow up after you've worked with a municipality? Do you follow up with them after you find them a candidate? And what is the percentage of positive in that role?
Yeah, that's amazing that you brought that up. We just had this, we had an organizational retreat about the importance of following up with candidate placements. So the answer to that question is no. However, we are. So we talked about the importance of that, because what we try to do is we try to stand outside of what's called the people pile. So basically, we're trying to elevate ourselves amongst our peers. And so one thing that we want to do moving forward is just what you said. I think there's a lot of value in that, right? So basically what we do is we right now, we basically reach out to that candidate and support them when they first start, and you know, provide them with leadership material, that type of thing. But what we're going to do is what you just talked about, is following up with the mayor, the board members, and the candidate to make sure things are going well. If there's anything we can do to kind of help smooth things out that need smoothed out, or help them with if you guys have questions, that type of thing. So have we done it in the past? No. Are we going to? Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
I'll follow up on that. I think one of the things that we've learned in another community too is that while maybe we weren't intentionally following up the community to follow up on your point, we have followed up the community, and I think some additional training opportunities have led from those discussions. We were in one last week, and we have found that to be very, very helpful not only to the new administrator, but helpful for the council to better understand what that relationship's supposed to look like, especially with new sitting council members, where this may be foreign to them. You get a lot of folks that get on council. I had that in my 22 years as city manager. You know, I went through a lot of council members over that period of time. And so we used to do a board training with, an onboarding training with all of our new council members, plus we supported sending them to the Illinois Municipal League, usually in the first few years to give them experience interacting with other elected officials, but there's a lot of very good training opportunities at IML annually in September. So I'll just share with you that point. It wasn't intentional, but it worked out that way, and I felt like that board onboarding training that we did the other night was really, really helpful. So
That's well said.
I'd like to add, too, that this year, none of us went to the IML because of whatever circumstances, but next year, I would like money budgeted to have as many of us go, because I think it's very valuable. And Jim, would you please let everybody know what session you led this year?
Oh, yes, I was fortunate enough to lead the how to hire an administrator or a manager at the IML. So yeah, so we presented that. In fact, I presented it 10 years ago as well. So yeah, so it's been it's good to be recognized as a professional in the industry that's been successful at doing that. So.
If there are no other questions, we will then move on to alderperson comments. Now it's time for adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. McIntyre.
Do I have a
Second, Smith.
Okay, motion by McIntyre, second by Smith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned at 8:19. Thank you.
Thank you.